Finally, Jennifer leaned forward, voice low but steady. "There's a difference," she said slowly, "between curiosity and intrusion." It was like a pin had dropped in the studio. Her tone wasn't angry. It was measured, dead calm. The kind of calm that signals a storm not yet unleashed. Megyn tilted her head, amused, almost like she was savoring the edge Jennifer was now walking. "I think people are just invested," Megyn said, lifting a perfectly manicured brow. "They admire your resilience. They root for your happy ending. But some feel misled. Like they were sold a fairy tale, and now they want answers." Jennifer didn't blink. "People can want whatever they want. That doesn't mean they get to have access to every chapter of my life." "Oh, come on," Megyn said with a dry chuckle. "You filmed your wedding prep. You made a documentary about your love life. You posted about soulmates and forever. It wasn't exactly private." Jennifer's expression didn't waver, but her eyes had shifted, colder now, sharper. "I shared those moments because they were real to me at the time," she said, each word deliberate. "Because I believed in love. Because I wanted to celebrate something meaningful. Not because I was auditioning for public approval." The audience held its breath. Megyn, sensing the shift, smiled like a wolf about to bite. "But don't you think that comes with a price? The visibility, the access, the image of J.Lo in love, again and again. How many chapters does this book have?" Jennifer's eyes darkened. "You think you're being clever, Megyn. But you're not asking about love. You're not even asking about me. You're performing. For shock. For sound bites." Megyn's eyes glinted. "Isn't that what we all do?" "No," Jennifer said, and now the chill was unmistakable. "Some of us create. Some of us put our hearts into the work. Into music, film, dance, art. Others, they poke, prod, and pull for ratings." There was a soft murmur in the crowd, uneasy, respectful. Megyn's smile flickered, just briefly. Then she tried again. "So, you're saying love didn't fail, you just grew apart?" "I'm saying," Jennifer said with emphasis, "that sometimes the world is so obsessed with the ending, they forget people are human. Not hashtags." She adjusted slightly in her chair, crossing one leg over the other, her body language firm now. "You want the headline. Jennifer confirms heartbreak. Jennifer spills on Affleck. You won't get it. Not here. Not like this." Megyn looked at her for a long second. Then she flipped her note card. "Fair. Let's talk work, then. Your new single, it's titled Phoenix, right?" Jennifer nodded, clearly wary. "Interesting choice," Megyn mused, almost too lightly. "Is the title autobiographical? Rising from the ashes of another public collapse?" There it was again, the jab dressed as a question. Jennifer didn't respond immediately. She took a moment, exhaled, let the weight of the room settle. Then she spoke, and her voice had steel in it. "I named it Phoenix because I've burned. And I've risen. Again and again. Not just from heartbreak. From being underestimated. Dismissed. Ridiculed. And yet, here I am. Still standing. Still singing. Still creating." The room erupted into applause, spontaneous and loud. But Megyn didn't clap. She waited, lips pursed. The tension wasn't gone, it had evolved. "I think a lot of women relate to that," Megyn said finally, her tone softer now, but calculated. "Being judged for moving on. For being too emotional, or too closed off. For trying again after the world watched you fall." Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "Women are allowed to change. To try. To love. To fail. To walk away. And we don't owe anyone the play-by-play." Megyn leaned forward, not backing down. "But you built an empire on being relatable. On being aspirational. On being seen. So when the image cracks, isn't it fair to wonder what's behind the curtain?" Jennifer stared at her for a long, silent moment. Then she laughed, quiet, but sharp. "You don't want what's behind the curtain," she said. "Because it's messy. It's complicated. It's grief and hope and mistakes and joy and private victories no camera ever saw. Another pause. The room was locked in. And that's not a scandal. That's life. Megyn opened her mouth, but Jennifer continued, voice gaining strength. You think being famous makes us immune to pain? That we don't cry alone? That we don't sit in silence some nights wondering how we got here? I've been through more in 1 decade than some people face in a lifetime, and every time, I chose to keep going. Not for claps. Not for comments. But because I still believe in something. Love. Growth. Healing. The studio was silent again. Even the camera operators had stopped moving. Megyn's face had tightened, just slightly. But she wasn't finished. Healing, she echoed. Is that what this new album is about? Jennifer nodded. It's about reclaiming your voice. After it's been used, twisted, projected on. It's about turning the noise into music. The heartbreak into movement. And Ben? Megyn asked, one last time. Is he in any of the songs? Jennifer gave a cool smile. If you listen closely, you'll find pieces of every chapter. But I don't write for the past. I write to move forward. The applause began again, stronger this time. A wave. And though Megyn held her smile, it no longer looked triumphant. Jennifer adjusted her mic. Let's talk about what matters. The tour. The music. The message. But the audience knew it. The line had been drawn. A storm had passed through. And not only had Jennifer weathered it, she had owned it. And Megyn? She sat back, expression unreadable once more. But for all her control, something in her eyes flickered, uncertainty, maybe even respect. But the silence between them wasn't finished yet. Megyn's lips curved into a diplomatic smile, but the glint in her eyes had sharpened to glass. Her tone dropped to a velvet edge. So, just to clarify, you don't care about appealing to broader audiences. You'd rather alienate half the theater if it means making a point. Jennifer leaned forward, elbows on her knees, eyes steady. No, I'd rather tell the truth, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. She paused. Especially then. The audience broke into applause again, longer now, louder. There was nothing polite about it. It was a wave. A shift. Megyn chuckled softly, clearly rattled but clinging to control. Truth is a subjective thing in Hollywood, though, isn't it? You say you're telling a story, others say you're rewriting one. Jennifer folded her hands in her lap, graceful but unyielding. Storytelling isn't rewriting, it's reclaiming. And I'm allowed to center women in my work without asking permission. But don't you think, Megyn said, flipping her notes slowly, that too much focus on empowerment can sometimes come off self-congratulatory? Jennifer blinked once. Twice. You mean, when a woman stands in her power and refuses to shrink, it bothers people who are used to watching her apologize for existing? A cheer erupted again, no hesitation this time. The camera light blinked red, still live, still raw. Megyn tried to smile it off, but her next words came clipped. Is there a point where power becomes ego, though? Where reinvention becomes vanity? Jennifer leaned back, laughed. Low, dangerous. And is there a point where asking the same misogynistic questions becomes lazy journalism? Another wave of applause. Someone in the audience actually whistled. Megyn sat straighter, the edges around her eyes tightening. You know, you're very good at controlling the narrative. Jennifer nodded. Decades in this business taught me one thing: if you don't control the narrative, someone else will write it for you. Usually badly. Usually by men. There was a stir in the wings. A camera panned to the producer behind the glass, whose face was pale. The control room was chaos, silent to the viewers but screaming into headsets. On stage, everything looked perfect, but the air was heavy, electric, impossible to ignore. Megyn's fingers tapped her cue cards. So when people say the movie is more agenda than art, what's your response? Jennifer gave a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. People who call women's stories an agenda usually haven't looked in a mirror long enough to recognize their own. The studio laughed, a deep, guttural release of tension and awe. The energy had turned. She wasn't defending anymore. She was leading. Megyn inhaled sharply. It sounds like you think the criticism comes from bias, not merit. Jennifer's voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. I think when women over 40 write, direct, and produce their own stories without a man to vouch for them, the industry calls it polarizing. But when a man does the same, he's called a visionary. Megyn's smile flickered. Plastic now. You don't think you've become too political for your own brand? My brand, Jennifer said slowly, is evolution, not approval. If I wanted to play it safe, I'd still be singing bubblegum pop and smiling through interviews like this without speaking my mind. The audience clapped. Louder. Sharper. It was no longer a polite talk show audience. It was a crowd watching something seismic unfold. Megyn's voice took on a clipped rhythm, like she was hurrying to regain control. Okay. So let's talk about the awards season. Some have already speculated that your role in Solstice is your push for Oscar redemption after what happened 2 years ago. Jennifer didn't flinch. I'm not chasing statues. I'm telling stories. If gold comes with it, fine. If not, it doesn't erase the work. But you admit, Megyn pressed, that the campaign for your last nomination rubbed people the wrong way. Some thought it was, what was the phrase, too self-promotional. Jennifer laughed again, but it had bite. You mean I believed in my own work out loud? God forbid a woman advocate for herself. Or overcompensate. Megyn offered sweetly. Jennifer sat back, eyes blazing. You don't like women who take up space, do you? Gasps again. Someone in the back said, oof. Another, damn. Megyn's smile froze. Excuse me. Jennifer didn't blink. Every question today has been about how I'm too much of something. Too public. Too old. Too bold. Too political. Too proud. Too romantic. And maybe you need to ask yourself, what exactly is it about women taking space that makes you so uneasy? The studio exploded. Applause, cheers, a few standing now. The stage lights buzzed. Megyn was silent for a full beat too long. She looked down at her notes, then back up. This isn't personal, Jennifer. This is my job. Jennifer nodded. Then maybe it's time to do your job better. Boom. A producer gestured violently from the side, signaling a cut to commercial. But Jennifer didn't budge. The cameras didn't cut. The red light stayed on. Megyn leaned forward. I hope you're ready for the headlines tomorrow. Jennifer smiled, warm and unfazed. I've survived every headline. I'll survive yours. And the room erupted again. This time it wasn't even applause. It was respect. Raw, stunned, undeniable. No one looked away. Not the cameras. Not the host. Not the world watching from behind screens across the country. Jennifer had arrived for a press stop. What she delivered was a reckoning. Megyn gripped her cue cards again, but they now looked flimsy. Obsolete. Like paper shields in a wildfire. And Jennifer... She sat back, eyes calm, heart steady. Because when a woman speaks with her full voice, no one, not even a network, can mute her. Do you think, perhaps, Megyn began, lips tight, voice smooth, you've become a little addicted to being the hero? Always the underdog. Always rising. Doesn't that storyline ever get old? Jennifer smiled. But it wasn't gentle. It was the kind of smile you learn after 30 years of being underestimated. What gets old, she said coolly, is being told who I'm allowed to be. What gets old is the gatekeeping. Who's too bold, too ambitious, too Latina? This isn't about race or gender, Megyn cut in, her tone sharper now. Jennifer's voice rose, deliberate, commanding. Isn't it? Because you didn't ask George Clooney how old he was when he played a 35-year-old astronaut. You didn't ask Leo why he keeps being paired with 20-year-olds. But me, I play a revolutionary, and suddenly it's desperation. A stunned silence spread like smoke. Megyn blinked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Jennifer stood slowly, unclipping her mic. I came here to talk about storytelling, about risk, about art that hasn't been safe or easy. But all you wanted was blood. Gasps. A camera operator instinctively zoomed in. Someone in the control booth whispered, "Don't cut. Don't you dare cut." "Walking away doesn't make you brave," Megyn tried, reaching for control. Jennifer turned, gaze burning. "No. But staying when I'm being diminished? That wouldn't make me wise." She turned to face the audience directly, voice unwavering. "To every woman watching, listen to me. You don't owe anyone your silence in the face of disrespect. You don't owe them your composure. You can walk away. You can choose dignity over applause." The audience rose like a wave. Cheering, clapping, whistling. This wasn't just another celebrity moment. This was a reclamation. Jennifer began walking off the set. Megyn sat frozen, lips pressed into a thin line. Her earpiece crackled. "We're off script. Cut, cut, cut." But it was already too late. Jennifer paused near the exit. Turned. "Ladies, you don't have to take it. Not in an interview. Not in a boardroom. Not in a relationship. You get to walk away with your power intact." The audience erupted again. Full standing ovation now. Cameras panned wildly. The control room in chaos. But Jennifer never looked back. Megyn sat alone at the desk, the silence swallowing her rehearsed poise. "Well," she said quietly, "there she goes." But even she could feel it. That wasn't just a walkout. That was a shift. And the world noticed. The headlines were already writing themselves. Jennifer Lopez shuts down live interview. Walks out in viral confrontation. She didn't just drop the mic. She dropped the room. So, what just happened? Was this a PR disaster, or a cultural reset? Was Jennifer too bold, or was Megyn just too threatened? Tell us what you think in the comments. Did Jennifer walk out, or rise up? And if you want more raw, unfiltered moments that shake the stage and stop the cameras, subscribe. And never look away. Because in a world full of polished lies and practiced grins, this was real.